The signal came from nowhere. Commander Zeltos stared at the display screen in his command center, his 4 eyes blinking in confusion. For 300 years, he had monitored the outer edges of known space for the Galactic Confederation. In all that time, nothing interesting had ever happened. The same boring patrol routes, the same empty star systems, the same reports that said nothing found. But today was different. The signal was weak but clear. It pulsed in a pattern that meant one thing. Someone was asking for help. The strange part was where it came from. The signal originated from a sector of space that should have been empty. All their star maps showed nothing there except empty void. "Sir," called his assistant, a young Valerian named Kith. "The signal is getting stronger. Should we report it to Central Command?" Zeltos rubbed his scaled chin with one clawed hand. The Galactic Confederation had rules about unknown signals. They were supposed to investigate first, then report. But this signal came from so far away that it would take weeks to reach it. "Send a probe," he ordered. "Let's see what's out there." The probe launched and began its long journey toward the signal source. While they waited, Zeltos sent a preliminary report to his superiors. "Unknown signal detected, investigating. We'll report findings soon." 3 weeks later, the probe's data arrived back at the monitoring station. Zeltos opened the files and nearly fell out of his chair. The images showed something impossible. Where their maps indicated empty space, the probe had found an entire galaxy. Not just any galaxy. A galaxy full of artificial lights, energy signatures, and what could only be spaceship traffic. "This can't be right," Kith whispered, looking over his commander's shoulder. "Our surveys mapped this area 200 years ago. There was nothing there." Zeltos checked the probe's instruments twice. Everything was working correctly. The galaxy was real, and it was huge. Even more shocking, the signals coming from it indicated thousands of different civilizations, all apparently working together. Within hours, Zeltos had sent an emergency report to the Confederation Council on the capital world of Nexus Prime. The response came back faster than he had ever seen before. "Investigate immediately. Establish contact. Determine threat level." The Confederation's fastest scout ship, the Seeker, arrived at Zeltos' station within days. Captain Norvac, a proud member of the warrior Kralton species, took command of the mission. His orders were simple: make contact with these unknown aliens and find out what they wanted. The Seeker jumped into hyperspace, carrying a full diplomatic team toward the mysterious galaxy. The journey took 2 weeks. When they arrived at the edge of the unknown galaxy, they found something waiting for them. A single ship hung in space near the galaxy's outer rim. It was unlike anything in the Confederation's databases. The hull was gray and angular, covered in what looked like weapon ports and sensor arrays. Most surprising of all, it was clearly waiting for them. "Unknown vessel," came a transmission in perfect galactic standard language. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the Terran Alliance ship Normandy. We received your probe's scan data and thought you might want to talk." Captain Norvac exchanged glances with his diplomatic team. How had these aliens learned their language so quickly? And how had they detected the probe from such a distance? "This is Captain Norvac of the Confederation vessel Seeker," he replied. "We are explorers and diplomats representing the Galactic Confederation. We detected distress signals from your region of space." There was a pause before the human responded. "Distress signals? Oh, you must have picked up some background chatter from our ongoing operations. We're not in distress, Captain. We're just busy." "Busy with what?" Norvac asked. "Long story. Look, would you be interested in a face-to-face meeting? We've been curious about you folks ever since we detected your probe. We don't get many visitors from other galaxies." Norvac felt a chill run down his spine. Other galaxies? These aliens talked about intergalactic travel like it was routine. The two ships met at a neutral point in space. Captain Rodriguez turned out to be a strange-looking alien with pale skin, short dark hair, and only 2 eyes. He wore a blue and black uniform that looked military in design. With him came several other beings that appeared to be different species, all wearing similar uniforms. "Welcome to what we call the local group," Rodriguez said as they sat around the conference table in the Seeker's meeting room. "I represent the Terran Alliance, which is a collection of worlds from this galaxy. We've been monitoring your galaxy for some time, but this is our first direct contact. You've been watching us?" Norvac's military instincts put him on alert. "Only passively," Rodriguez assured him. "Long-range sensors, nothing invasive. We make it a policy to observe before making contact. You'd be surprised how many civilizations react poorly to unexpected visitors. Ambassador Thalen, the Seeker's chief diplomat, leaned forward. Captain Rodriguez, I must ask, what is your technological level? Your ship's energy readings are unusual. Rodriguez smiled. We get that a lot. Our technology probably looks strange to you because we developed it under different circumstances. Where we come from, you have to build things tough or they don't last long. What kind of circumstances? Thalen asked. The kind where if your shields fail or your weapons jam, everyone you know dies, Rodriguez said matter-of-factly. But let's not focus on the dark stuff. We're more interested in learning about your confederation. How many species? How large an area do you control? What are your primary goals as a civilization? As Thalen answered the humans' questions, Norvac studied the alien delegation. The humans seemed friendly enough, but there was something about them that made him nervous. They sat too still, watched too carefully, and their questions were exactly the kind a military intelligence officer would ask. Our confederation spans 847 member species across 50,000 star systems. Thalen explained proudly. We've spent millennia bringing peace and order to our galaxy. We help primitive worlds develop, mediate disputes, and protect weaker species from those who would exploit them. That's impressive, Rodriguez said. 47 species working together peacefully. That takes real skill. In our experience, cooperation usually only happens when everyone faces the same threat. What kind of threats? Norvac couldn't help asking. Rodriguez exchanged glances with his team. Various kinds. Galaxy eaters, ancient machines, species that view other life as food or fuel. The usual stuff. The casual way the human said the usual stuff made Norvac's blood run cold. These aliens talked about galaxy-destroying threats like they were discussing the weather. Perhaps, Thalen suggested, we could arrange a more formal meeting. Your alliance and our confederation might benefit from cultural exchange. We'd like that, Rodriguez agreed. I can set up a meeting with our diplomatic corps. Fair warning, though, we'll probably send a larger delegation than you're expecting. The alliance includes a lot of different voices and they'll all want to be heard. How large? Thalen asked. Few dozen ships, maybe 100 representatives. We like to be thorough. Norvac tried to hide his shock. 100 representatives suggested a level of organization and resources that rivaled the Confederation itself. But these humans had appeared with just one ship and spoke like their entire civilization was some kind of military alliance. We'll need coordinates for the meeting, Rodriguez continued. Somewhere neutral with good defensive positions in case we run into trouble. Trouble? Thalen asked. You never know what might follow you to a meeting, Rodriguez said with another casual smile. In our experience, it's better to be prepared for anything. As the meeting ended and the human delegation returned to their ship, Norvac watched the Normandy disappear into hyperspace. Something about this first contact felt different from all the others in Confederation history. Usually, new species were either primitive tribes grateful for guidance or advanced civilizations interested in trade and knowledge exchange. These humans felt like soldiers. And if they were soldiers, what were they fighting? 3 weeks later, Nexus Prime buzzed with activity. The massive space station served as the Confederation's premier diplomatic facility, a gleaming symbol of their technological achievement and peaceful intentions. Ambassador Veltar stood at the observation deck, watching preparation crews make final adjustments to the welcoming ceremony. Everything must be perfect, he told his assistant. This is our first contact with an entirely new galaxy. The way we handle this will set the tone for centuries of relations. Veltar had conducted first contact procedures 47 times during his career. The pattern was always the same. New species arrived nervous and overwhelmed by the Confederation's advanced technology. He would give a welcoming speech about bringing them into the galactic community. They would gratefully accept guidance and protection. Another successful integration would be recorded in the history books. He had prepared his standard presentation for these Terran Alliance representatives. The holographic displays would show the Confederation's vast territory, their peaceful intentions, and the benefits of joining their civilized society. He expected the usual questions about trade agreements, technology transfers, and how quickly their primitive worlds could be brought up to Confederation standards. Sir, his assistant interrupted. Long-range sensors are detecting the Terran delegation. Veltar nodded and straightened his ceremonial robes. How many ships? 1, 2? Sir, I count 37 vessels. Veltar blinked his large eyes. 37 ships seemed excessive for a diplomatic mission, but perhaps these humans wanted to make a good impression. What class of vessels? Unknown, sir. The designs don't match anything in our databases. Some appear to be diplomatic ships, but others— The assistant paused. Others have very large weapon signatures. A chill ran through Veltar's aquatic system. Weapons? Are they threatening us? No, sir. They're maintaining peaceful formation and responding to our traffic control. But their weapons are significant. Through the observation window, Veltar watched the human fleet approach. The ships were indeed unlike anything he had seen. Some were sleek and elegant. Others looked like flying fortresses covered in armor plating. All of them moved with military precision. Ambassador, came a transmission. This is Captain Chen of the Alliance diplomatic vessel Enterprise. Thank you for hosting this meeting. We're ready to begin whenever convenient. Welcome to Nexus Prime, Veltar replied. We have prepared a welcoming ceremony in your honor. That's very kind, but unnecessary. We prefer to get straight to business if that's acceptable. Veltar felt slightly disappointed. The ceremony was meant to impress new species with Confederation grandeur. But perhaps these humans were simply eager to learn about their superior civilization. An hour later, Veltar stood in the main conference hall watching the human delegation file in. His first shock came from their numbers, over 100 representatives, just as Captain Rodriguez had warned. His second shock came from their diversity. The group wasn't all human. Veltar saw tall beings with pointed ears and green blood, massive creatures covered in bony ridges, insect-like species with multiple arms, and dozens of other forms he couldn't identify. They all wore similar uniforms and carried themselves with quiet confidence. Captain Chen stepped forward. She was a small human female with dark hair and calm eyes that seemed to miss nothing. Ambassador Veltar, thank you for agreeing to this meeting. I represent the Terran Alliance Diplomatic Corps. With me are representatives from 73 member species. 73 species? Veltar couldn't hide his surprise. Your alliance must be quite large. Large enough, Chen replied diplomatically. We understand you represent something called the Galactic Confederation. We're interested in learning about your organization and discussing potential cooperation. Veltar activated his presentation display. The Confederation represents the pinnacle of galactic civilization. We have brought peace and order to 847 species across 50,000 star systems. Our mission is to guide younger races toward enlightenment and protect them from the chaos of uncontrolled development. He gestured to the holographic displays showing Confederation territory. As you can see, we control the vast majority of this galaxy. Our technology allows us to provide for all our members' needs while maintaining perfect harmony between different species. Captain Chen studied the displays with interest. Impressive. How do you handle security threats? Security threats? Veltar was puzzled. The Confederation exists to prevent such problems. We mediate disputes, prevent wars, and ensure that all species develop along peaceful lines. A large creature covered in scales and spikes leaned forward. Chen introduced him as Commander Rex, representing the Krogan species. What about external threats? Hostile aliens, ancient machines, planet killers, that sort of thing. Veltar laughed politely. Commander Rex, I think you may have been reading too many adventure stories. The galaxy is a peaceful place under Confederation guidance. We occasionally deal with pirates or criminals, but nothing that requires serious military action. The human delegation exchanged glances. A pale being with pointed ears, Chen had introduced him as Ambassador Spock, raised one eyebrow. You have encountered no species that view other life forms as resources to be consumed? No artificial intelligences that consider organic life inefficient? No ancient weapons left behind by dead civilizations? Nothing like that exists, Veltar assured him. Such things are the stuff of primitive mythology. Captain Chen nodded slowly. I see. May I ask about your military capabilities? What would you do if faced with a galaxy-level threat? Veltar felt slightly insulted. Captain Chen, the Confederation maintains peace through diplomacy and superior technology. We don't engage in the kind of primitive warfare that younger species sometimes resort to. Our defense fleet exists mainly for show and to handle minor piracy issues. Show? Commander Rex looked confused. You build warships for show? Our ships represent the triumph of civilization over barbarity, Veltar explained. When primitive species see our advanced vessels, They understand the benefits of joining our peaceful society, rather than pursuing violent paths. A silence fell over the human delegation. Veltar sensed that something in the conversation had shifted, but he wasn't sure what. Captain Chen finally spoke. "Ambassador, forgive me if this sounds presumptuous, but your galaxy seems to have been remarkably peaceful. In our experience, that's unusual." "How so?" Veltar asked. "Most galaxies contain multiple existential threats," Chen explained matter-of-factly. "Ancient machines that harvest organic life, species that view other races as food sources, cosmic phenomena that destroy star systems. We've learned that survival requires constant vigilance and the ability to fight when necessary." "You're talking about warfare as if it's normal," Veltar said, disturbed by the casual way these aliens discussed violence. "Where we come from, it is normal," Commander Rex growled. "Peace is something you fight for, not something that just happens." Ambassador Spock added, "Captain Chen, perhaps we should explain our recent history. The Confederation may benefit from understanding why our alliance exists." Chen nodded. "Ambassador Veltar, for the past 2 centuries, our galaxy has been engaged in what we call the Reaper War. Ancient machines that return every 50,000 years to harvest all organic life in the galaxy. We fought them, we stopped them, and we learned some hard lessons about survival." Veltar felt his aquatic breathing system flutter with anxiety. "You're saying you fought machines that could destroy entire galaxies?" "And won," Chen said simply. "But it took everything we had. Every species, every ship, every weapon we could build or find. We learned that individual worlds can't survive alone against cosmic-level threats. That's why the Terran Alliance exists. Because cooperation isn't just nice to have. It's essential for survival." "You're describing a universe of constant warfare," Veltar whispered. "Not constant," Chen corrected. "But warfare is always possible. The universe contains things that want to kill everything alive, and the only way to stop them is to be stronger, smarter, and more united than they are." Commander Rex leaned back in his chair. "Your Confederation sounds nice, Ambassador. Peaceful, civilized, orderly. But what happens when something shows up that doesn't care about your diplomacy?" Veltar stared at the human delegation, realizing that his carefully prepared presentation about Confederation superiority suddenly seemed naive and inadequate. These aliens weren't primitive tribes seeking guidance. They were veterans of conflicts he couldn't imagine, offering partnership to a civilization they probably viewed as helplessly unprepared for reality. "Perhaps," Captain Chen suggested gently, "we should discuss what mutual cooperation might look like between our peoples." The cultural exchange sessions began the next day in Nexus Prime's largest conference facility. Ambassador Veltar had arranged for the finest Confederation scholars, scientists, and military officers to attend. He hoped that learning more about each other's civilizations would help bridge the growing gap between their worldviews. The first session focused on technology. Dr. Yilth, the Confederation's leading expert on starship design, presented their most advanced vessels with obvious pride. "Our Dreadnought-class ships represent the height of our engineering capabilities," Dr. Yilth explained, displaying holographic schematics. "Each vessel is 800 meters long, carries a crew of 300, and possesses energy shields capable of withstanding any known weapon. The main armament can destroy a medium-sized asteroid." The human delegation listened politely. Dr. Yilth noticed that several of them were taking notes, though their expressions seemed oddly neutral. "Very impressive," said Commander Shepard, a human military officer. "What about your smaller vessels? Fighters, patrol ships, that sort of thing?" "We don't use such primitive craft," Dr. Yilth replied with some disdain. "Civilized warfare doesn't involve single-person attack vessels. Our smallest ships carry crews of 50 and focus on overwhelming firepower rather than individual heroics." Commander Rex made a sound that might have been amusement. "No fighters? How do you handle fast attack situations? Boarding actions? Precision strikes?" "We don't," Admiral Kethis, the Confederation's highest-ranking military officer, interjected. "Such tactics are barbaric. Civilized species resolve conflicts through superior technology and coordinated fleet actions." "Interesting approach," Captain Chen said diplomatically. "Perhaps you'd like to see some of our designs?" The human presentation that followed left the Confederation delegation stunned. The ships they displayed were smaller than Confederation vessels, but their specifications were terrifying. Energy output that dwarfed anything in the Confederation fleet. Weapons that could crack planets. Armor that could withstand direct hits from stars. This vessel, Captain Chen indicated a sleek ship on the display, is a standard Normandy-class frigate. It carries a crew of 30, but its Mass Effect core generates enough power to supply an entire Confederation space station. Mass Effect? Dr. Yulth asked weakly. We manipulate dark energy to alter the mass of objects, explained Dr. Liara Tassoni, a blue-skinned Asari scientist. It allows for faster-than-light travel, artificial gravity, and weapons that ignore conventional defenses. Admiral Kethis leaned forward. That's impossible. Our best scientists have proven that dark energy cannot be controlled. With respect, Admiral, Dr. Tassoni replied, your scientists may need to expand their theories. We've been using Mass Effect technology for over 200 years. The presentation continued with increasingly disturbing revelations. The humans casually described weapons that could sterilize planets, ships that could travel between galaxies in weeks, and armor that made individual soldiers nearly invulnerable. This is standard equipment for Alliance Marines, explained Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, the same human they had first met weeks ago. He gestured to an image of powered armor. The shields can deflect most small arms fire. The strength enhancement allows lifting up to 500 kilograms, and the integrated weapons include plasma cannons and micro-missile launchers. You give such weapons to individual soldiers? Admiral Kethis asked in horror. Every Marine gets a suit, Rodriguez confirmed, along with training on how to use it effectively. In our experience, if you're not prepared for the worst-case scenario, you won't survive long enough to regret it. Commander Rex activated his own armor's display system. This is standard Krogan battle gear. Energy shields, biotic amplifiers, and enough firepower to level a city block. Most Krogan start training with equipment like this when they're teenagers. Teenagers? Veltar felt faint. You give children weapons of mass destruction. We give children the tools they need to survive, Rex corrected. On Tuchanka, anything less gets you killed before your first birthday. Dr. Yulth raised a shaking hand. Excuse me, but where did these technologies come from? How did you develop such advanced systems? The human delegation exchanged glances again. Captain Chen spoke carefully. Dr. Yulth, our technology developed rapidly because we faced existential threats that required rapid innovation. When your entire species faces extinction, you learn to build bigger guns very quickly. What kind of threats? Admiral Kethis demanded. Well, Dr. Tassoni began. There were the Reapers I mentioned before. Synthetic beings the size of dreadnoughts with the ability to indoctrinate organic minds and harvest entire civilizations. Then there were the Collectors who abducted entire human colonies to build a human-reaper hybrid. The Geth, a race of synthetic beings that achieved consciousness and decided organic life was a threat to be eliminated. Don't forget the Flood, added Master Chief, a tall human in green armor who had been silent until now. Parasitic life forms that consume all biological matter and use the biomass to create more of themselves. Nearly wiped out the galaxy before the Forerunners activated the Halo installations. Halo installations? Feltar asked weakly. Weapons designed to kill all sentient life in the galaxy, Master Chief explained matter-of-factly. Sometimes the only way to stop a galactic infection is to sterilize everything and start over. The Confederation delegation sat in stunned silence. These aliens spoke about weapons that could destroy all life as if they were discussing gardening tools. You're describing a universe of constant warfare and extinction-level threats, Dr. Yulth whispered. Not constant, Captain Chen corrected gently, but frequent enough that we've learned to stay prepared. In our galaxy, peace is the brief period between major crises. Commander Rex laughed darkly. Peace is when you're reloading. Perhaps, Veltar suggested desperately, your galaxy is simply more dangerous than ours. We've had thousands of years of peaceful development. Surely that counts for something. Ambassador Spock raised an eyebrow. Ambassador, with respect, your galaxy's peaceful history may indicate that you have simply not yet encountered the threats that exist in this universe. In our experience, hostile forces tend to target the least prepared civilizations first. Are you saying we're in danger? Admiral Kethis demanded. We're saying everyone is always in danger, Master Chief replied. The question is whether you're ready for it when it arrives. Captain Chen activated a new display. We've done some preliminary scans of your galaxy during our approach. We've detected several concerning energy signatures. The display showed various points of light scattered across a galactic map, each point pulsed with an ominous red glow. These signatures match technologies we've encountered before, Dr. Tassoni explained. This one appears to be Forerunner in origin. This cluster resembles Reaper relay networks. And this, she paused, this looks like a flood outbreak that's been contained but not eliminated. The Confederation delegation stared at the map in growing horror. The threats these humans described as normal parts of life were apparently already present in their own galaxy, undetected and uncontained. You're telling us, Veltar said slowly, that our galaxy is already infected with these threats? Possibly, Captain Chen admitted. We'd need to investigate further to be certain. But in our experience, these kinds of signatures don't appear unless something dangerous is already active. What do you suggest we do? Admiral Kethis asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Learn, Commander Shepard said simply. Train. Prepare. Form alliances with species that can help you fight when the time comes. Because based on what we're seeing, the time is coming soon. The session ended with the Confederation delegation in stunned silence. Everything they thought they knew about their peaceful galaxy had been turned upside down in a single afternoon. The humans weren't primitive aliens seeking guidance. They were veterans of wars beyond imagination, and they were offering to teach survival skills to a civilization that had never needed them. Veltar looked at the star map still glowing on the display, showing the hidden threats scattered throughout their home galaxy. For the first time in his long diplomatic career, he realized that the Confederation might not be the advanced civilization in this relationship. They might be the primitives who needed protection. Admiral Thraxon had heard enough. For 3 days he had listened to these aliens talk about their superior weapons, their galaxy-destroying threats, and their advanced technology. The proud reptilian warrior refused to believe that his magnificent Confederation fleet was inferior to these crude-looking ships from unknown space. They're lying, he told his aide as they walked through the corridors of his flagship, the Dominator. No species could possess the weapons they describe. It's physically impossible. The Dominator was the pride of the Confederation fleet, 2 kilometers of gleaming metal, energy shields, and devastating firepower. It had never been defeated in battle because it had never needed to fight anything more dangerous than pirates or rebels. In Admiral Thraxon's mind, it represented the absolute pinnacle of military engineering. Admiral, his aide said nervously, the energy readings from their ships are quite unusual. Perhaps we should be cautious. Cautious? Thraxon hissed. These aliens show up with primitive-looking vessels and claim they've fought galaxy-destroying machines? They're trying to intimidate us with tall tales and fancy light shows. Through the observation deck, he could see the human fleet maintaining position near Nexus Prime. 37 ships of various sizes, all looking weathered and battle-scarred. To Thraxon's military eye, they appeared functional but unremarkable. Certainly nothing that could threaten a proper Confederation dreadnought. Sir, came a transmission from the bridge. Nexus Prime is requesting that we maintain peaceful formations during the diplomatic talks. Of course they are, Thraxon muttered. The Confederation has become soft. They've forgotten that strength commands respect. An idea began forming in the Admiral's reptilian mind. These humans claimed to be warriors from a universe of constant warfare. If that were true, they would understand and respect a display of military might. If it were false, they would be revealed as the frauds he suspected them to be. Admiral, his aide warned, the Council specifically ordered us to avoid any aggressive actions. I'm not being aggressive, Thraxon replied. I'm being educational. These aliens need to understand what real military power looks like. He activated his ship's communication system. This is Admiral Thraxon of the Confederation vessel Dominator. I request permission to conduct a training exercise to demonstrate our capabilities to our new allies. The response from Nexus Prime came quickly. Admiral, this is not an appropriate time for military demonstrations. Please maintain your current position. But Thraxon was already moving. The Dominator broke formation and began a slow, intimidating approach toward the human fleet. He activated the ship's most impressive systems. Energy shields at full power, weapon ports opening, targeting sensors sweeping across the alien vessels. This is what a real warship looks like, he announced on an open channel that he knew the humans could monitor. 2 kilometers of pure military superiority. Shields that can withstand anything. Weapons that can crack moons. And the finest crew in the galaxy. On the bridge of the Enterprise, Captain Chen watched the approaching Confederation vessel with growing concern. "Are they really doing this?" she asked. Commander Shepard studied the sensor readings. "Their weapons are powering up. Shields at maximum. They're either very confident or very stupid." "Options?" Chen asked. "We could disable them non-lethally," suggested Garrus Vicarian, the Turian tactical officer. "Overload their shields, knock out their engines, leave them floating but intact." "That might be seen as an act of war," Chen replied. "We're supposed to be building diplomatic relations." On the human fleet's command frequency, other captains were checking in. "Enterprise, this is the Normandy. That Confederation ship is painting us with targeting sensors. Enterprise, this is the Pillar of Autumn. Covenant war protocols are asking for weapons free. Enterprise, this is the Galactica. My pilots are ready to launch if needed." Captain Chen made her decision. "All ships maintain defensive positions. Do not fire unless fired upon. But if they shoot first?" "Understood," came the chorus of replies. Admiral Thraxon was enjoying himself immensely. The human ships hadn't moved or responded to his approach. In his experience, this meant they were either too frightened to react or too primitive to understand the threat he represented. "Sir," his weapons officer called, "we're in optimal firing position. All human vessels are within range." "Perfect," Thraxon replied. "Let's give them a demonstration they won't forget. Target the largest ship, that Enterprise vessel. Lock all weapons onto their command section." "Sir?" The weapons officer looked uncertain. "You want me to target their bridge?" "I want you to show them what happens when primitive aliens try to intimidate their betters," Thraxon growled. "Lock weapons and prepare to fire a warning shot across their bow." The targeting computers activated, painting the Enterprise with dozens of weapon locks. On every human ship, alarms began blaring. Captain Chen's calm voice cut across the chaos. "All ships, they've locked weapons on us. Defensive protocols are now active." What happened next took exactly 47 seconds. The moment the Confederation ship achieved weapon lock, every human vessel responded instantly. Years of fighting galaxy-ending threats had taught them that hesitation meant death. Warning shots were a luxury they had learned not to afford. The Normandy fired first, a stream of mass effect rounds that struck the Dominator's forward shields and overloaded them in seconds. The Enterprise followed with phaser arrays that sliced through the ship's armor like paper. The Galactica launched nuclear missiles that detonated against the hull in brilliant flashes of light, but it was the Pillar of Autumn that delivered the killing blow. A single Mach round, a massive slug of tungsten, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed, punched through the Dominator's weakened defenses and core. Systems Admiral Thraxon had just enough time to realize he had made a terrible mistake before his flagship began breaking apart around him. "Cease fire. Cease fire!" Captain Chen's voice cut through the combat frequency. "Target neutralized. Begin rescue operations immediately." The human fleet moved with practiced efficiency. Ships that had been delivering devastating firepower moments before now deployed rescue shuttles and medical teams. They pulled Confederation survivors from the wreckage of the Dominator with the same professional competence they had shown in destroying it. Admiral Thraxon found himself in the Enterprise's medical bay, his leg broken and his pride in ruins. Captain Chen visited him personally. "Admiral," she said quietly, "I want you to understand something. When you locked weapons on my ship, my crew interpreted that as hostile intent. In our experience, beings who target bridges are planning to kill everyone inside." "You destroyed my ship," Thraxon whispered. "We disabled your ship," Chen corrected. "If we had wanted to destroy it, there wouldn't have been survivors to rescue. The weapons we used were precisely calibrated to neutralize your threat while preserving as many lives as possible. But the Dominator was invincible. 2 kilometers of pure military power." Chen's expression was sympathetic but firm. "Admiral, your ship was impressive by Confederation standards, but it was built for fighting other Confederation ships. We fought beings that throw moons at their enemies. Your shields and armor were designed for a much more polite kind of warfare." "The Confederation Council will demand answers," Thraxon said weakly. "I'm sure they will," Chen agreed, "and we'll give them honest ones. Your admiral fired first. We responded proportionally. Our actions were recorded and will be made available for review." As Captain Chen left the medical bay, Admiral Thraxon stared at the ceiling and contemplated the ruins of everything he thought he knew about military power. In 47 seconds, these humans had demonstrated that the Confederation's mightiest warship was little more than a target to beings who had learned warfare in a universe where second place meant extinction. The demonstration was over. The lesson had been learned. The Confederation was no longer the strongest force in their galaxy. The emergency session of the Confederation Council convened within hours of the Dominator incident. Representatives from all 847 member species gathered in the Great Chamber on Nexus Prime, their voices raised in anger, fear, and confusion. "These aliens destroyed one of our most powerful warships," shouted Councillor Vextar from the Crystalline Coalition. "This is an act of war." Admiral Thraxon locked weapons on their vessel first. Ambassador Veltar replied wearily. By all accounts, they responded defensively. Defensively? Councillor Jung of the Aquatic Collective's gills fluttered with indignation. They reduced a 2-kilometer dreadnought to scrap metal in under a minute. Supreme Chancellor Orothul called for order, his ancient voice carrying across the chamber. For over 500 years, he had guided the Confederation through peaceful expansion and diplomatic solutions. Now he faced a crisis unlike anything in their history. "We are here to determine our response to the Terran Alliance," he announced. "But first, we must understand what we're dealing with." Dr. Yilth activated the holographic display, showing the tactical analysis of the Dominator engagement. The Council watched in stunned silence as sensor data revealed the precise, overwhelming nature of the human attack. The energy output from their weapons exceeded our shield's capacity by a factor of 12, Dr. Yilth reported. The kinetic projectile that delivered the final blow had enough force to crack a small moon. Most disturbing of all, they achieved this level of destruction while specifically avoiding critical life support areas. "You're saying they could have killed everyone but chose not to?" asked Councillor Murthak. "Precisely," Dr. Yilth confirmed. "They destroyed Admiral Thraxon's ship while maximizing crew survival. This suggests incredible precision and restraint." Supreme Chancellor Orothul studied the data carefully. "What are our options, Council? How do we respond to beings who can destroy our most powerful ships while holding back their true capabilities?" "We demand they leave our galaxy immediately," Councillor Vextar declared. "These aliens are clearly hostile invaders disguised as diplomats. And if they refuse?" Veltar asked quietly. "If their entire fleet possesses weapons like this?" The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. If the humans were conquerors, the Confederation had no way to stop them. Their peaceful galaxy had no defenses against beings who treated galactic warfare as routine. "Perhaps," suggested Councillor Mir Anda of the Scholarly Dominion, "we should ask what they actually want from us." Captain Chen and her delegation were invited to address the Council that afternoon. The Great Chamber, usually filled with the confident voices of galactic leaders, was unnaturally quiet as the humans entered. "Honored councillors," Chen began, "I want to address the incident with Admiral Thraxon directly. My fleet acted in self-defense when targeted by hostile weapons. We regret the loss of the Dominator, but we will not apologize for protecting ourselves when threatened." "Your weapons destroyed one of our greatest ships," Councillor Vextar accused. "What's to stop you from conquering our entire civilization?" Chen's response was simple and devastating. "Councillor, if we wanted to conquer you, would we be sitting here talking? Our preliminary scans show 50,000 inhabited systems in this galaxy. My fleet could reduce any of them to rubble before you could mount a defense. The fact that we're having this conversation proves we're not conquerors." "Then what do you want?" Supreme Chancellor Orothul asked. Chen activated a holographic display showing the galaxy map they had presented before, with the ominous red signals scattered throughout Confederation space. "We want to help you survive what's coming," she said. "Our scans have confirmed the presence of multiple existential threats in your galaxy. Dormant Reaper technology here, possible flood outbreaks in this sector, ancient Forerunner installations that could activate at any time, and other signals we don't recognize but that follow patterns we've learned to fear." Dr. Tassoni stepped forward. "Councillors, your galaxy has been peaceful because these threats have been sleeping. But something is beginning to wake them up. Our arrival may have triggered sensor networks that have been dormant for millennia. You're saying your presence here has put us in danger?" Councillor Jung demanded. "We're saying the danger was always there," Commander Shepard replied. "You just hadn't detected it yet. In our experience, these kinds of threats don't stay dormant forever." Master Chief activated another display. This is a timeline based on similar situations we've encountered. Ancient threats usually follow predictable activation patterns, based on the energy signatures we're detecting. You have maybe 6 months before something major wakes up. The council chamber erupted in panic. Representatives shouted questions and accusations while Supreme Chancellor Orothul struggled to maintain order. Captain Chen waited for the noise to die down before speaking again. We understand this is frightening. 6 months ago, you thought you were the most advanced civilization in your galaxy. Now you're learning that your galaxy contains sleeping monsters that could end everything you've built. What do you suggest we do? Chancellor Orothul asked. Learn, Chen said simply. Train your people. Upgrade your technology. Form military alliances between species that have never needed to cooperate before. We're offering to teach you everything we know about fighting existential threats. And in return, Counselor Vextar asked suspiciously. Partnership, Chen replied. We've learned that survival is easier when you have friends. The universe is vast and full of things that want to kill everyone. We'd rather face them together than alone. Ambassador Spock stepped forward. Counselors, we are not asking you to abandon your peaceful way of life. We are asking you to develop the capability to defend it when necessary. In our experience, civilizations that cannot fight for their values usually lose them. But we don't know how to fight, Counselor Miranda said quietly. We've built our entire society around peaceful cooperation. That's actually an advantage, Commander Rex said, surprising everyone. Species that work together survive longer than those that fight among themselves. You've already mastered the hardest part of galactic defense, getting different races to cooperate. Captain Chen nodded. What you need now is the ability to direct that cooperation toward military goals when necessary. We can teach you how to build weapons, train soldiers, and coordinate defenses. But the most important thing you already have, unity. Supreme Chancellor Orothul looked around the chamber at the faces of 847 different species, all united under the Confederation banner. For the first time since the crisis began, he felt a spark of hope. What would this partnership look like? He asked. Joint training exercises, Chen explained. Technology transfers where appropriate. Shared intelligence about threats, and when something does wake up in your galaxy, you won't face it alone. Why should we trust you? Counselor Vextar demanded. Chen smiled sadly. Because, Counselor, we've been where you are now. 200 years ago, our galaxy was peaceful too. Then the Reapers came and we learned that peace is something you have to fight for, not something that just happens. And if we refuse your offer? Chancellor Orothul asked. Then you'll face whatever's coming alone, Chen said simply. We'll wish you luck and continue our journey to the next galaxy that needs help. But we won't abandon you to die if we can prevent it. The vote, when it came, was closer than expected. 423 species voted to accept the human partnership. 421 voted to reject it. 3 abstained. The narrow margin reflected the Confederation's deep uncertainty about abandoning their peaceful ways. But it was enough. As the council session ended, Supreme Chancellor Orothul approached Captain Chen privately. I must ask, he said quietly, how many galaxies have you helped prepare for these threats? 7, Chen replied. 3 survived their trials. 4 didn't listen to our warnings in time. And you continue this work knowing that you might fail? Chen nodded. Chancellor, we've learned that the universe is vast and mostly hostile, but occasionally you find civilizations worth protecting. The Confederation is one of those civilizations. Your peaceful society, your cooperation between species, your commitment to helping others, these things are rare and precious. Even if we're not warriors, especially because you're not warriors, Chen said. The universe has plenty of beings who are good at destroying things. It needs more beings who are good at building them. As the human delegation prepared to return to their ships, Ambassador Veltar stood at the observation deck watching their fleet. Tomorrow, joint training would begin. Confederation engineers would learn to build weapons they had never imagined. Confederation soldiers would train for threats they had never faced. It would be the end of their peaceful age, but perhaps the beginning of something stronger. A civilization that could protect the peace they had built instead of simply hoping it would last forever. In the distance, the first human training ships were already approaching Confederation worlds, carrying the knowledge that might mean the difference between survival and extinction. The Deathworlders had arrived, and they were teaching the galaxy how to live.